Good afternoon, Academy. Commodore Peter Levy, Commandant, Australian Defence Force Academy, Lieutenant Colonel David Cave, Commanding Officer, distinguished guests, trainee officers of the Academy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant David Llewellyn from Foxtrot Squadron, and it is my very great privilege this afternoon to be your host on this most auspicious occasion in Academy history. When we meet in this place, we are on Ngunnawal country. I give my thanks and I pay my respects to our Ngunnawal elders, past, present, and importantly, emerging for our future. I honour all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here at Adfa and right across our great continent. I also acknowledge those whom have served our great nation, and in particular, I acknowledge our Indigenous servicemen and women and our Indigenous veterans. Indigenous service that for so long was not fully acknowledged. Those who served did so not for recognition, but because of their faith in who we could become as a country and as a people. We are still on that journey, and I thank them for their service. I also acknowledge and honour our Indigenous leaders within Defence, for it is by their initiative and representation we are able to become diverse and effective guardians of our great southern land. Before you is our newly commissioned Academy artwork entitled Nyana Nya Nanya, meaning to teach in the Kalkadoon language. I, like many of my colleagues, commanders and trainees, are delighted to present this to you today. The artist, Ms. Shanae Sutton, is a proud Kalkadoon woman, an Indigenous nation in the present-day Mount Isa area. At just 24 years of age, her preeminence as one of Australia's leading contemporary Indigenous artists has seen her achieve global recognition and acclaim. Shortly, we will hear from Shanae herself, explaining the symbology and significance of Nyana Nya Nanya. Ms. Sutton, with artistic direction from a small team here at Adfa, and in consultation with Ms. Jude Barlow, a Ngunnawal elder, have created this extraordinary representation of our individual and collective journey into and beyond Adfa, viewed with the eternal perspective of Indigenous connection to country and to Australia. It is our sincere hope that Nyana Nya Nanya will link all of us together, officer cadets and midshipmen past, present and future. And like the individual and unique fingerprints so many of you have contributed to this artwork, such has been your contribution to the Academy, individual, unique and collective. Nyana Nya Nanya, to teach. This painting will adorn the Academy for years to come. Generations hence, staff and trainees will find profundity in the message and solace in the shared journey. It will also stand as a permanent visual acknowledgement of country, a statement of reconciliation, representation, and a commitment to Indigenous equality. It is now my very great honour to introduce a pre-recorded Welcome to Country message from Ms. Jude Barlow, whom we are also privileged to welcome virtually. She recorded this Welcome to Country especially for this event. Ms. Barlow is a Ngunnawal elder and Director of People Services at the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies. Please join me in viewing this Welcome to Country.
Yuma, which is the Ngunnawal word for hello, and is the Ngunnawal people's gift to you all. So please use it when you're saying hello or g'day. Gallanga, Jude Barlow, and I'm a Ngunnawal woman. My family are Wallabaloa people, a family group within the Ngunnawal Nation, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today, albeit rather remotely. Now, Ngunnawal people have lived, roamed, hunted, performed ceremony and raised our families here on this beautiful, but at times quite cold country for thousands of years. Ngunnawal country stretches from Wirua, Lake George, to Burua and down to Namadgi National Park, where there are still sites of cultural significance to my people. Our totem is Malyan, the wedge-tailed eagle, and we are moth eaters. the bogong moths, was manna from heaven when the moths used to transit over our country to their secret cave in Namaji National Park. And we were storytellers, singers, dancers. And a very small and recent part of our story is a story of segregation, cultural oppression and disenfranchisement. But this was all overlaid, of course, however, by our resilience, courage and our strength. And we have now emerged from a period of darkness and are strengthening our culture and remembering our language. Now I'm really lucky. I get to work every day, albeit once removed, at IATSIS, but not in the creative and cultural side. I work in HR. IATSIS was established in 1964 after an initial conference in 1961 where 7 white male academics and 2 white women determined that there should be a place where the culture of Australia's First Peoples should be preserved before we perish. However, it is now a place of creativity, passion, culture, and is distinctly outward-looking. A place where we want to teach all Australians about their very ancient culture, a culture that is uniquely Australian, uniquely ours. And I love sharing my culture, and I hope that one day all Australians understand that they can share and celebrate this culture with us. Now I would like to welcome you to the land of my ancestors, in the language of my ancestors, a language once thought dead, but really it was only sleeping. Yangu nalamanyin donimanyin, nunawalwari darawalwari, marabiji mulangari jinila, kulambani yarabinyin naraganawali ninyin, nona yarabi yangu yumalundi, nunawalwari darawalwari. And this means together we're all gathering on Ngunnawal country today. This country is my ancestors' spiritual homeland, and we are keeping the pathways of our ancestors alive by walking together as one. Welcome to Ngunnawal country.
Thank you, Ms. Barlow, for welcoming us and indeed for your cultural guidance throughout this project. Shanae Sutton is a proud Aboriginal artist and Kalkadoon woman from the Emu Foot province around the Mount Isa area in northwest Queensland. Shanae's great-great-great-grandmother is an ancestor of the Kalkadoon people and is also related to Charlie Perkins, a renowned Aboriginal activist who led the Freedom Ride in the 1960s. Shanae entered her first art competition at 13 years of age and won first place in the open category and has been painting madly ever since. Passionate about her art and reconciliation, she seeks to capture a modern representation of Aboriginal culture and a compassionate understanding of Aboriginal people. Her distinctive style is ingrained onto the canvases she produces, merging the two worlds of traditional Aboriginal heritage with a modern contemporary twist that is visually captivating, capturing the eyes of collectors from around the world. Shanae has won an abundance of both state and national awards and has gained success both nationally and globally and has been an Australia Day ambassador for the past 5 years. It's my pleasure to welcome Shanae online and please join me in welcoming her, Ms. Shanae Sutton.
Hi everyone. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in the Kalkadoon language. Waira nai wachilina, ika ni dinaji, natu nampi nampi, mantitu, dinawata mutiana, nyachi yigapiri, putaru, malta chayana, putarugu, ilia, iliagu ya uni. Which means I would firstly like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging on which this event takes place. My name is Shanae Sutton. I'm a proud Kalkadoon woman and a contemporary Indigenous artist. I'm extremely humbled to be speaking to you all today. Unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic, I couldn't be with you in person, but this video will explain the symbolism and the story to my artwork. I'm so proud to have designed this significant painting that recognises the Australian Defence Force Academy. The men and women who train there, and all of your journeys, from your home communities to ADFA and then onto the Australian Defence Forces. I started my painting journey about 10 years ago, and in that time I've created many artworks for government departments and organisations from all around Australia, including the Royal Australian Mint, the Commonwealth Games, Tennis Australia, the NRL, Dreamworld, Essendon Bombers, former Origin greats, and the Australian Government, to name a few. I've exhibited my artworks at Queensland's Parliament, the Queensland State Library, the Australian Open, Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore, and London, and have sold my paintings to collectors all around the world. I even have 2 pieces hanging in the Royal Collection at Buckingham Palace. I've also worked with the Australian Defence Force on many occasions. Earlier this year, I collaborated with the Australian Defence Force and the Royal Australian Mint to create a new Indigenous military service coin. I've created a piece for the Department of Veterans Affairs, a piece for the Gender, Peace and Security Directorate, and a piece for Norforce. I also created an interactive artwork at the DATSIP conference several years ago with all of the service personnel and dignitaries that attended the conference adding their fingerprints to the painting to give them a connection to the art piece. That artwork has since been used as the design for the Australian Defence Force's Reconciliation Action Plan. You too will be adding your fingerprint to complete this very significant artwork, so you'll have a connection to this painting and to the ADFA well into the future. I'd now like to share with you all the story behind this very special painting. This painting is called To Teach, Nyana Nya Nanya, and this is my interpretation of the Australian Defence Force Academy, the personnel who train and learn at ADFA, and their journey. In my painting, the large dark blue, light blue and red community symbol in the centre of the painting represents ADFA and is painted in the colours of the Tri-Service flag with the Academy's coat of arms in the centre. The ADFA community symbol is surrounded by a large yellow circle which represents the sun. This symbolises the brighter future that the trainee officers have through ADFA as their characters and leadership skills are developed as the future leaders of tomorrow. The 5 red circles on the sun represents the Australian Defence Force's values, which help to create that brighter future for the trainees and develop their character. These values are service, courage, respect, integrity, and excellence. The white silhouettes around the sun represent the balance of academic and military training that the trainees receive, as well as the recreational activities and friendships which are made at ADFA. The sapling and puzzle pieces represent the growth and development of the trainees, with the 3 large yellow U symbols which surround them, symbolising each year of the 3-year course that the trainees undertake. The smaller brown community symbols in the top left of the painting represent the many communities from around Australia that the trainees come from. The footprints begin in these communities, then travel to ADFA, where they're educated and trained before continuing their journey to either the Army, Navy or Air Force community symbols, which are the dark blue, red and light blue community symbols that the footprints lead to. These community symbols represent the 3 services, the work that they do, and the men and women who work in each service. This represents the trainee's journey from being a civilian in their home communities to the academy to being a commissioned officer. The dark blue community symbol with the grey Navy camouflage in the bottom right represents the Royal Australian Navy. The destroyer and dolphin symbolise the capable and adaptable naval personnel and silent submariners. The red community symbol with the tank, kangaroo and green camouflage represents the Australian Army and the agility of the personnel. The light blue community symbol with the blue camouflage, the fighter jet and the eagle represents the Royal Australian Air Force and their swift, fierce attacks. The U symbols around these community symbols are the men and women who are part of each of the services. The men are the U's with the spears, and the women are the U's with the coolamons and digging sticks. The 4 brown and yellow dotted circles and U symbols in the background of the painting represents the 4 components of the training program that the trainees must undertake. The 3 yellow stars represents the ADFA Charter and the purpose of the Australian Defence Force Academy, which is to provide Australian Defence Force midshipmen, officer cadets and other international partners a balanced and liberal university education within a military context and environment, to positively develop their character, leadership and professionalism, and to enable them to build a cohort of joint service multinational peers who grow and mature together through careers within their parent services and national defence forces. The 3 handprints around the edge of the painting represent the 3 main support services that the ADFA provides, which are the Sponsor Family Scheme, Chaplaincy Services, and Counselling and Mental Health Support Services. The Rainbow Serpent and Diary in the bottom left corner represent and acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and history, which has been a part of our country for over 65,000 years. The word Wurrugagama means friend in the Ngunnawal language, and the wedge-tail eagle feather and footprints represents Malian, the wedge-tail eagle, the totem of the Ngunnawal people, who are the traditional owners of the Canberra region and the land on which the ADFA sits. This honours the Ngunnawal people and their connection and importance to the ADFA. Lastly, the fingerprints around the outside of the painting represents all of the men and women, past and present, who have been on the ADFA journey. The spirit trails and stars around the edge of the painting connect them all together. And I thank you all for your service. Curly Curlew. Thank you and goodbye.
Good afternoon, Academy and invited guests, and thank you on behalf of the Academy to Jude for that very special welcome to country. Also, let me acknowledge Jude, Shanae, and other Indigenous personnel present here, either in person or virtually, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. It is wonderful to have had your support over the last few months. Yanan Yananya, to teach. It's a good painting, frankly. I think it looks great. But looking great is less important than what it symbolises. Now, it would be right and proper if we had commissioned this artwork purely to acknowledge the importance of our Indigenous service personnel, or to show our respect for the country, for the people upon whose country we train, the Ngunnawal, Ngarigo, Yuin, Tarawal, Kurnai, Warramai, and many other peoples. But this art does more than that. It is unifying. It tells the story of our journey. We here at the Academy are united by numerous things: our commitment to defence values, our desire to lead and to excel, and many others. But one element stands foremost in uniting us, that of service to our country. You have all volunteered to safeguard our nation and to undertake a journey towards commissioning as a junior officer, a leader of other Australians. You have committed to become guardians of our country, our Australia, our heritage. Defence believes that this commitment provides a basis that unites us. To quote from our latest doctrine on ADF leadership, the first guardians of Australia probably started their watch around 50,000 years ago. The land they confronted was unforgiving, but if you knew how to work with it, sustaining. They experienced drought, floods, fires and isolation. They learned that to succeed they had to work together, as a team. A new wave of migrants from Europe arrived in the late 18th century. They brought with them their own ways. There were clashes between the Indigenous people and the Europeans. It was a time of upheaval. Yet in time, in the bush, some from the two groups learned to work together as a team. The lessons from Indigenous peoples on how to survive in our land were mixed with a different experience of the newcomers. The land, like the seas that transported the newcomers, did not care where you came from. What mattered was the knowledge and the skills you had. This, and whether your mates could rely on you, was your value to the team. That team was tested at Gallipoli and the Western Front, fought again in Europe and the Pacific in the Second World War, and has protected our country faithfully in many conflicts since. Our team has become more diverse with time, incorporating Indigenous, European and other peoples from every corner of the globe. But our reputation, our success, our actions are built upon those who came before. Our team is built upon those who came before. Who better then to document our journey than those who came first? The art of one culture, Australia's first culture, represents and unites all of us. And an important journey it is. The process of commencing a lifelong pursuit of professional mastery is captured elegantly by this artwork. From the many societies and communities that raised you to your place here at the Academy. The opportunities that literally surround us here at Adfa, with the values by which we live central and conspicuous. Support networks, the elements of our charter, the traditional owners on the land on which we do these things are all prominent. The involvement and commitment of our staff and trainees is captured by your personal contribution, the mark of your fingerprints. And finally, your paths from graduation to your new roles as leaders in the Navy, Army and Air Force are captured. These include the inextricable links between each of those organisations, this institution and the first Australians in the guardianship of our country. It is a potent and uniquely Australian depiction of the long journey to build a diverse but united team. It is a challenging journey. It is a noble journey. It is our journey. Thank you. I'll now invite the Academy J9, Officer Cadet Emma Kabayakawa, to say a few words.
On behalf of the trainee officers, I would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawala people, in particular Elders Miss Jude Barlow for providing cultural guidance and artist Janine Sutton for representing such a wide range of aspects of Adfa lifestyle in this beautiful painting. I would also like to thank Lieutenant Llewellyn and Adfa Command Team for facilitating this project the last few months by working closely with Janine and the local Indigenous elders to capture a representation of our individual and collective journey into and beyond Adfa. Having this artwork here at Adfa reinforces to the trainee officers the purpose of our time here at the Academy and the significance of our Indigenous acknowledgement, connection and the representation. As we saw in the video, the painting is packed with different aspects of Academy life, from military training, leadership development and extracurricular activities, to the friendships that we built here. It reminds us the fact that our time here at Adfa has not only taught us skills and knowledge required for our careers, but about the various rich culture we live in and interact with. Especially for the third year TOs, we will soon be leaving the circle of Adfa to go on to our next journey of our respective services. Though, as shown in the painting, the white dot surrounds the ADF community. Even if we are posted in different locations, all around Australia or internationally, we are still part of this one big community that we can support each other throughout our career. This week, training officers from all three groups contributed to the painting by adding their fingerprints around the spiritual trail. Every fingerprint is distinctive and different, which reinforces the uniqueness and individual character each TO brings from their community to here at the Academy. This burst variety in perspective and experience adds to our learning opportunity and further enhances character building. The fingerprints also shows that the journey we are taking cannot be done alone. Thanks to the amazing support network available to us, combined with the mentoring and guidance by the staff, and encouragement by other TOs, our 3 years at Adfa are such a rich and unique experience. Finally, this painting draws on how in the ADF and Adfa, each one of us personnel are part of this wonderful culture we have in Australia, and it symbolises our connection to the land. Having all of our values painted in this Indigenous painting guides us back to who we are as Australians. We, as ADF personnel, are here to protect the national interests and the people. Having the painting here at Adfa will reinforce to us how it is important to remember this whilst undertaking the challenging but rewarding journey at Adfa. I sincerely hope that this stunning artwork will be incorporated into many other aspects of future TO's lifestyle and to be the beginning of many other Indigenous elements being created here at the Academy. This will allow us to not only have a closer connection to the First Nation culture, but also provide Indigenous TOs and staff with a stronger sense of connection to the land and opportunities to gather and share perspective with other colleagues. Please join me in watching a video package documenting artists' process.
Thank you, Emma. Before we close, it is opportune to offer my thanks to all of those who have helped bring this project to life through our shared vision. I need not list names in this forum, but those people know who they are. I thank Shanae Sutton and Ms. Jude Barlow for their hard work, talent, and cultural guidance. And lastly, to the trainee cohort, present and future. On behalf of the commanding officer, we bequeath Nana Na Nanya to your care. May it inspire you, may it challenge you, and may it unite you. Thank you, and good afternoon.